When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of Make We Talk this evening. Our topic is Jamaican foreign policy at stake. I have with me Ambassador Curtis Ward, is an attorney at law and an international consultant, former ambassador and deputy permanent residency of Jamaica to the United Nations with special responsibility for security affairs. I also have with me Herb Nelson Jr., board chairman of Crime and Security Committee Institute of Caribbean Studies, coordinator of the Jamaican Diaspora Crime Intervention and Prevention Task Force. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Just one quick correction. It's not security affairs. It's Security Council affairs.
Sorry, yes, Security Council affairs. I do apologize, Ambassador. Thank you for the correction.
Big difference.
Yes, Security Council affairs, yes.
That's
Thank
right.
you for the correction, sir. We're going to speak
Thank
about...
you for having us, Jeff. Ambassador, it's good to see you.
Same here, Herb.
All right.
Yes. Ambassador, what on earth is going on with Jamaica's Foreign Affairs Ministry and the whole diplomatic war between America and Jamaica? You being a former ambassador to the United Nations, maybe you can, tell us what is really going on? Because when a diplomatic cable is sent to a different country, re-issue that the other country want from the host country, how do they do it?
Well, you started off by asking a question. What is happening in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? I can't tell you because what I'm seeing coming out of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very little, and except that which is said is not telling the whole story. This issue with the United States is a very serious one, actually. And there's a lot of interest in how it is being dealt with. And people are asking for more information about exactly what occurred. Because in some circles of the foreign policy establishment, they are refuting what is in the public square as information that we have, but they're not telling us what the information is. So we are left to speculate. But it certainly is an indication of some lack of diplomatic statecraft, and this whole matter was botched by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Herb Nelson?
Yeah.
What do you think? You see what is going on within Jamaica and the United States pertaining to Jamaica literally not answering not answering America with the diplomatical cable. And it is alleged that the Prime Minister of Jamaica came through an airport without any Secret Service or anybody from the diplomatical circle coming to meet him. So he went through the normal channel as a normal citizen, than a head of state, where he took off his belt and shoes. It is alleged.
Well, let me put it this way. Um, Being a former U.S. Army military person, and the fact that we got briefings about our behavior in the overseas arena, everything pertains to the military and pertains to diplomacy is governed by a series of regulations, right? And the most prominent regulation, Ambassador Ward will most likely agree, is the Vienna Convention, Article 9, which covers the 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 recurring state, the reciprocal things that states do with each other, rather, and Article 41, which says you respect the law of the state and you must not interfere with the laws or the values of those countries. Now, I said the other day in something that I wrote that the U.S. is simply bullying Jamaica. They picked this fight and they chose the bully tactic. If the prime minister came up and he was not met and he was treated like any other person, it's all psychological. They play these psychological games. I know because it's something the military does, and a lot of the folks, State Department and other venues in the U.S. government, are ex-military people who understand psychological warfare quite well. But the fact is, regulations are there for a purpose. It outlines the do's and the don'ts. And if the US, who happens to be way ahead of the rest of the world when it comes to the approval of same sex marriage and other deviant behaviors that they choose to recognize, it doesn't mean that the rest of the world are in tow with them. So it would appear as if Jamaica is being forced on a path of acceptance. And then Jamaica will be that shining example on the hill that says, hey, Jamaica did it. Nothing happened there. Why can't the rest of you do it? But I seem to recall a little over 5 years ago, there was a rally in Halfway Tree when they tried to get rid of the Buggery law. And over 40,000 people across Jamaica came together and rallied to object to them getting rid of the Buggery law. So Jamaica is well known. Even the protests against the gay or the LGBTQ flag flying over the embassy in Jamaica. These things are well annotated for protests. So I would say to you, Jamaica has been known to oppose same-sex and LGBTQ issues for quite a while. And I would rather see the US go about getting Jamaica's acceptance in a different manner rather than ramming stuff down their throats.
Ambassador, there's a question in the chat room. The person is asking, when you have a diplomatical passport, how does that work? Unmute your mic, Ambassador. Unmute your mic. Go ahead, unmute your mic. Yeah.
Yeah, before I respond to that specific question,
Yes, sir.
I just want to comment a little bit on what Herb just said. Herb placed this as bullying. But we must also understand that 129 countries in the world recognize same-sex partners, not just the United States. 64 are opposed. Jamaica is one of them. Now, under the Vienna Convention, the sending country, in this case the United States, has a right to select any member of its foreign service or any individual it so chooses as a staff member in its embassies abroad. The US government recognized same-sex marriage with the US Supreme Court decision in 2015. The State Department has a policy of non-discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. And so in selecting its staff to serve abroad, it cannot discriminate on the basis of what the receiving country dictates, because it has that right under the Vienna Convention. At the same time, the Vienna Convention gives the receiving state a right to state to the sending state that the individual chosen is unacceptable, as long as that is not arbitrary and it is applied across the board, basically. So Jamaica had an option here of saying to the US, based on our domestic laws, we cannot fulfill our obligations under the Vienna Convention and protect your diplomat in Jamaica because of the high level of homophobia in Jamaica. So the Jamaican government had an argument to make. The question is, did they make it? Or did they merely ignore the US request, which is what we understand to be the case? Now, if the US, with the kind of relations it has with Jamaica, the kind of assistance that it provides Jamaica, economic and security and otherwise, asked Jamaica to grant immunity to one of its diplomats, and Jamaica has a valid reason for saying no, then you have diplomatic discussions and come to a resolution. You know, but Jamaica didn't seem to do that. Jamaica ignored the request. And so the US was naturally pissed off and sent a second request demanding an answer. They were not demanding that Jamaica accede to their request, but the US State Department had to satisfy that their policy of non-discrimination based on sexual orientation is carried out in a proper manner. Otherwise, that staff member can take the State Department to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. They can sue the State Department. Jamaica botched it because I thought Jamaica had an excellent case to make, but didn't make it. As far as the diplomatic passport is concerned, it doesn't give you any special privileges unless the state, the country you're entering, decide to grant you those privileges.
Okay. Ambassador, let me ask you this question here. If the Jamaican government, if the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade had reached out to Ambassador Ward or Ambassador Luma Samba or one of the ambassadors, former ambassadors within the democratic circle in Jamaica and asked question, what can I do? What should I do to this about this democratic cable? What would be a response to them?
You know, they didn't have to reach out to me, and they wouldn't anyway.
Okay.
I don't know about Ambassador Samba, but there are senior civil servants who understand how the process works. I cannot imagine that the political directorate sought their opinion in this matter. And if they sought their opinion whether they gave a candid opinion or they told the political directorate what the political directorate wanted to hear.
Mm.
But if you take the attitude, whether big or small, that you're not going to respond to a deep note, that in itself is being very disrespectful.
Mm.
And I don't care whether they want to call it bullying or whatever they want to call it. There is a diplomatic way to deal with it. And the Vienna Convention gave them a way. Maybe they weren't familiar with the provisions of the Vienna Convention. They're supposed to know what it means and what it does, because that is the blueprint for bilateral diplomatic relations all over the world. Every country are parties to this convention.
Yes. Can you, at this time, maybe you can can you educate them about the Vienna Convention?
Well,
Because obviously our foreign ministry is not aware of it then.
of course they are. Of course they are. They follow many of the protocols and the provisions of the convention. If you are sending someone as an ambassador to another country, you first have to get an agreement, the agreement of the receiving country to accept the person you are appointing as ambassador. That's one of the provisions of the Vienna Convention.
Mm-hmm.
The Vienna Convention provides for diplomatic immunity to family members of every diplomatic staff. Once a person is accredited as a diplomat, that individual's family members are automatically accorded diplomatic immunity. In
Yes.
this particular case, because of the uniqueness of the Jamaican situation, the U.S. specifically requested diplomatic immunity for the spouse in a same-sex marriage. And they did this, in my mind, not as a bullying tactic, but out of respect for Jamaica's domestic laws. And they had to do that to ensure that they were not violating their own policy and U.S. laws. And don't
Right.
forget, the the Foreign Assistance Act, through which the U.S. provide assistance to countries abroad, require that there is no discrimination, require that human rights are observed in these countries to receive assistance unless the U.S. government grant exemption on the basis of national security.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So there are a lot of things involved. You asked about the Vienna Convention, if I can explain. In my article I recently published in the Ward Post,
Yes.
I went through the entire set of articles within the Vienna Convention that were applicable to this case. And there are several of them. Herb noted two of them, but there are several articles that impact on this particular case.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying to our ambassador,
encourage people to look at my article, because there are,
yes,
there are other international law provisions, international human rights law, and so on. And remember, Jamaica are parties to all of these conventions.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamaica is an advocate of the Vienna Convention because it protects small states.
Mm-hmm. Ambassador, you said that if Jamaica had gone a different way, in the sense of applying some of the convention, the convention that is that we are part of, and say to the United States, under Jamaican law, we don't X, Q, Y, Z. You think maybe they would have done a different, some things that is going on or would have gone on?
Let me interject for a second, Jeffrey.
Before you answer her, you cannot really say for sure the,
Okay.
the outcome of a negotiation, but you got to go there first.
Okay. Herb?
Okay, Jamaica, under Article 9, as the ambassador explained before, of the Vienna Convention, the words I was searching for that escaped me. It says a receiving state may at any time, without having to explain his decision, declare any member of a diplomatic staff persona non grata.
Correct.
A person so declared is considered unacceptable and is usually recalled to his or her home nation. If not recalled, the receiving state may refuse to recognize the person concerned as a member of the mission. Keep in mind, we're talking about a spouse of the member, right? And as far as I can tell, only the actual diplomat themselves are extended the protection
No.
from.
Family members, I'll tell you the article in a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Family members of diplomatic staff
Right.
described in the Vienna Convention both as diplomatic staff and diplomatic agents or granted diplomatic immunity. The same immunity that is granted to the staff is granted to their family members.
And that's under
Okay.
which article you cited?
I'll have to find it. I'm having issues here with my. Hold on.
Okay.
While I look it up, you guys can talk about
Yeah.
something.
Well, the reason I brought it up, there was another former diplomat, U.S. diplomat, who said to me that even consuls don't have full diplomatic privileges. Only diplomats based in the embassy. If that's
Consuls don't. Consuls don't. But the family members of diplomatic staff, and I'm going to give you the specific.
well, I was going to come to that because what you're saying is the State Department will also work with foreign governments to provide a same-sex spouse to the extent possible with diplomatic visas, privileges, immunities, and authorization to work on the local economy. Says, suppose a foreign government denies a diplomatic visa to same-sex spouse. In that case, the department will authorize the employee to receive involuntary separate maintenance allowance to help defray the cost of maintaining a separate household during that assignment, right? And there's a State Department regulation he sent me, DSSR 264.2, right? He says retaliation is not typical for these cases in many countries, and the historical norm is to accept the foreign country's decision, respect their laws and sovereignty. The State Department historically has known that these visas can get refused, and they advise their personnel as such in the Foreign Affairs Manual and Department of State regulations. So he says, he was saying, so why pick on Jamaica if that's the case, right? He says, granting full diplomatic privileges to a diplomat who has yet to reach a country isn't a guarantee, but is generally a courtesy. Extending it to their spouse shouldn't be taken for granted and should be based on a nation's sovereignty.
Listen, Herb, you asked me for the specific provision.
Let me let you go ahead.
It's Article 37, Section 1. It provides protection for the family members of a diplomatic agent. Here's what it says, and I'm going to quote for you. The members of the family of a diplomatic agent forming part of his household shall, the word is shall, if they are not nationals of the receiving state, enjoy the privileges and immunities specified in Articles 29 to 36, which are the immunities that are granted to the diplomatic agent or the staff member. It is not a yes or if. It is that is how it is. You understand?
Yeah.
What the State Department does with family of diplomats in many cases is grant them work permits. That's a different thing. That's not covered. That's not covered in the Vienna Convention. That is a privilege, extra privilege that some staff, families of staff members get from the U.S. State Department. But the Vienna Convention is very clear, Article 37.
Okay. Now, Ambassador, let me ask you this then: if indeed the laws of Jamaica does not recognize same-sex marriage, can Jamaica be forced, or did Jamaica do the right thing in just saying, "Hey, we're rejecting this person"? I don't know whether the person was persona non grata or what.
No, it don't have to be persona non grata. The reference you made to persona non grata, it said persona non grata or unacceptable.
Right.
And this can be said, this can be made by the receiving state before the individual is sent to the mission. So they don't have to wait until the person lands in Jamaica.
Which is what happened, right?
Right. The State Department says when they apply for the diplomatic visa for that individual, the Jamaican government just said that person is unacceptable. Here are the reasons why. It cannot be just an arbitrary rejection. Okay? And like I said before, Jamaica had valid reasons under its own domestic laws, the bulky laws in Jamaica,
Yeah.
to say this individual is unacceptable. I am not speaking against Jamaica's right to say the person is unacceptable. What I'm saying is the way it was handled by the Jamaican government is the problem.
I agree. I agree with that statement. You
My,
know,
Um,
my article is very comprehensive. And I think if you read my article, you will see all the various provisions of the convention that applies in one way or the other. One of the things that the convention says, Herb, is that the receiving state has to provide protection from danger and from harm of the diplomatic agents. In the case of someone in a same-sex marriage, that problem is multiplied tenfold in Jamaica.
Jamaica. Yeah.
Jamaica would not be able to provide protection from harm of such an individual. And therefore, that's another argument Jamaica could have put forward. It's not practical to protect that person. So Jamaica cannot live up to its obligations under the convention. So the whole thing was botched.
so, Ambassador, you're saying what I'm gathering from what you just said is that Jamaica has the right to say X, Q, Y, Z, and for some reason they did not answer, and they're not answering. Just trigger off a diplomatic row between the United States then.
Exactly. And you see, one of the problems I have with this, the foreign minister made a 2-sentence statement, which was, as one of the newspapers described as diplomatic speak. It wasn't even diplomatic. It was just obfuscation, if you ask me. And my point is, just this morning or yesterday or this morning, I'm not even sure when now, I received a press release sent out by the Jamaican ambassador in Washington, Her Excellency Ambassador Audrey Marks, explaining from her point of view what happened. Now, she didn't go far enough to speak about the government's response. But I reached out to the person whose name is on the press release as the contact. And my
Mhm.
question was, does this statement represent the statement of the foreign minister, hence the government of Jamaica, or is it merely a statement from the ambassador? And I specifically pointed out that I would be going on 2 radio programs today, and I would like an answer before I go on these programs. Because if it is a statement of the government and not merely of the ambassador, then I think it would be appropriate that we raise the points from that statement that she raised. But they have not responded to my inquiry. As usual, this is the case.
Mm. I see we're in here, Ambassador Ward. Jamaica, the United States established diplomatical relationship with Jamaica in 1962, followed Jamaica's independence from the United Kingdom. The United States and Jamaica maintain a strong and professional relationship.
Yeah.
So
And
if
Jamaica,
that is the case, Ambassador, so if that is the case, Ambassador, Jamaica right now, its foreign policy in the world is gone down to nothing. Because there's another thing that I have here. Jamaica has lost its relevance and is no longer an important player or voice in world affairs.
there's some truth to that. But as I will tell you, out of that relationship with the United States, Jamaica has been the net beneficiary. The United States has pumped millions of dollars into Jamaica. Millions of dollars. Not only economic support, climate change support, energy support, but most importantly, Jamaica's law enforcement and the military have gained significantly under the Caribbean Basin Security Initiative and other assistance programs.
Mhm.
So Jamaica is the net beneficiary. And when you're dealing with the United States, sure, the United States is big and powerful and is a bully in many ways. But you have to deal with it using your skills. You don't just dismiss the United States because they hold the handle and you hold the blade.
Mm. So
Very, very true, Ambassador, because you have a situation here where the U.S. is Jamaica's number one trading partner. You have majority of Jamaicans migrating to the U.S. And as you said, with CBSI and other programs, there's been a lot of assistance to Jamaica.
Mhm.
I don't know if the fact that China has been in there eating our lunch, so to speak, that Prime Minister Holness feels that he can just brush aside America's overtures, especially when it came to accommodating that diplomat. I've heard on one hand it's a new ambassador. I don't believe so because the one who is there now been only there for a year. But then I've heard that a statement that it was just a foreign service diplomat who they were making the request on behalf of.
It's a staff member. It's a staff
Staff
member,
member,
not the
right?
ambassador.
Okay. So when you're looking at the fact that they would come back, yeah, it was late, yeah, it was flippant the answers that they gave, but I don't believe they could have expected an approval with the current climate that exists with Jamaica and some of these African states that they are friendly with, that Jamaica would want to be a volunteer for this experiment, right? and as you said, the hostility that that diplomat would face, or that diplomat's spouse would face, for any type of overtures in public, or once they're known to the public, they would be probably the most watched couple anywhere they travel to on the island. And I know there are a lot of same-sex couples who come to Jamaica and have done quite well with the all-inclusive hotels.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure what this diplomat's function would be, and if there's a requirement to travel around and engage. That's probably what diplomacy is about most of the time, the engagement between diplomats and members of the public who serving in one role or another. And yes, this year, what we seen? We have seen the crime conference occur in Jamaica just in the last 2 weeks. We've seen Jamaica play an important role with the Haiti dilemma again in the last 2 weeks. So
While
Jamaica,
at the same time deporting Haitians to
yes,
send them back to the hell that they tried to escape from.
But not,
right.
not only that, Ambassador. Jamaica has taken the Haitians to court and charged them.
I know. I was on another program discussing that
Yeah,
earlier. But
yeah.
Herb, you know, what you're saying is true, but most U.S. diplomats posted in Jamaica don't go around the country. They are warned about doing that. They may go to the beach on the weekend, you know, and so on. But they're not mixing. They're not mixing with the population. But you know, I still cannot understand why the foreign minister, since there's so much speculation, so much interest in the subject, why the foreign minister has not addressed the issue in a comprehensive manner.
Mhm.
She had the opportunity to do so in the Senate, for instance. You know, she could have gotten up in the Senate as leader of government business and explain what happened.
And,
You
and,
know,
and also, Ambassador, the Minister of Information had a press conference this morning, and there
oh,
was nothing mentioned about it.
well, it don't make
The-
any
the-
difference. It doesn't make any difference what he says. Jeffrey, you know that.
you know,
You
he's a
know,
minister. Sure, yeah, he's a minister of misinformation, anyhow.
you
You
know
know,
that nobody really takes him seriously in Jamaica anymore. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
true, true. But
Nobody
Ambassador,
believes anything he says.
yes,
And
Ambassador, if Jamaica they kept quiet about this, nobody knew, because when diplomatic cables are sent from one country to the other, the nation does not know about it.
Yeah, but
But
listen,
for some reason, some leak came out with this one. Go ahead.
who
yes,
leaked? Who
Jeffrey,
leaked
but
it?
we don't know who leaked it. We don't know who leaked it and for what
There you
purpose.
go. Yeah.
The US could have leaked it to start a debate in Jamaica in the context of the constitutional reform. The
You have a
Jamaican,
point.
the Jamaican political directorate could have leaked it to gain political leverage from the homophobia which exists in Jamaica. So both sides may have had reasons to leak it. We don't
Mhm.
know who did, and I won't speculate. I can only say I saw from my own perspective that both sides had reasons to bring this out to the public. But then, if it is the Jamaican government that leaked it, it even puts more burden on the foreign minister or the prime minister to explain the circumstances and to invoke the provisions of the Vienna Convention. I hope she and her advisors and the prime minister and his advisors have read my article and saw where they have the backing of the convention. The convention gives rights, obligations to both sides. And it's called diplomatic convention. It's an opportunity in a bilateral relation, in particular the relations that we have had for all of our years of independence, as you mentioned, Jeffrey.
Yes.
We should be able to sit at a table with the United States and negotiate issues like these. But you know what? I also detect a certain amount of arrogance
Yes.
coupled with the ignorance
Yep.
by the Jamaican government. Now, when you couple arrogance and ignorance, you're in trouble. Okay?
Yes.
Because the arrogance of the Jamaican government is coming out of the Trump era. That creeping, autocratic type of behavior is coming out of the Trump era. You know, when you look across the rest of the Caribbean, I don't want us to miss it. I know how long we were talking about this issue.
Yes.
But 5 other CARICOM countries recognize same-sex partners. I think there are
5 other
5.
Caribbean countries.
Yeah, Antigua and Barbuda,
Mm-hmm.
Barbados, St. Kitts Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago. It may be 4. It may be 4. It's Antigua and Barbuda. Yeah, 4. 4 of them. Oh, Belize. Belize is the 5th one. 5 CARICOM member states recognize same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I know down in Trinidad who reads my articles all the time sent me a message and said, more than 5 years ago, a diplomat from the Netherlands that lived next door to him
Mm-hmm.
was a same-sex partnership. And Trinidad had no problems accepting it. We inherited the same Bulgari law from Britain, from the colonial days,
Yes. Yep.
which is a law going back into antiquity. And I'm not talking about the moral perspective of the law and what people believe and so on.
Yes.
But you know, there's also a right to privacy, and what somebody does in their bedroom is a different thing from what they do in public.
Yes.
You know, and there are many homosexuals who have held prominent positions in Jamaica and given the highest honors available in Jamaica. And you never hear anybody running after them and condemning them and demonstrating against them. So there's a lot of hypocrisy
Indeed.
in Jamaica's homophobic tendency. And some people refer to it as part of Jamaican culture. It is not culture. It's not culture.
But-
It is a belief. It is a belief system.
Yes.
Some of it based on
It's
arrogance,
9 o'clock.
some based on ignorance, some based on religion, you name it. It's not culture.
But Ambassador, when you look on what is going on, Jamaica is a homophobic state. It is alleged that some people sit in the parliament who are of the same-sex marriage. It is alleged. So, and if you believe, Ambassador, let me ask this question. You believe that Jamaica had, in a sense, respond to the United States on the first diplomatic cable, you think there'll be a big debate about this now?
Probably not. I don't know for sure, but probably not. Okay? But as I wrote in my article, Jamaica excuse me, not only thumbed its nose at the US government, it stuck its finger in President Biden's eye. Now, President Biden has advocated for the rights of same sex marriages and partnerships. It is a human right recognized by the international human rights community that the right to sexual orientation should not result in any form of discrimination. So, I don't believe it's all over. I don't believe so. If it's all over, it's because the US is satisfied that it is a fruitless endeavor to pursue. But I don't know that the US is going to take it lying down. Because I don't know if you will recall her. When the vice president went on her visit to 3 countries in Africa, Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. In Ghana, she made a speech literally condemning discrimination against people because of their sexual orientation.
Right.
She had some pushback. But the Biden administration is not shy about pushing that policy. And there are several countries in Africa. You know, almost half of the 64 countries that do not recognize same-sex partnership, almost half of them are in Africa.
Africa.
29 of them are in Africa. Many of the countries have significant Islamic population. But apart from that, they also have inherited the boundary laws from when they were colonies of Great Britain. You know, and the churches have a big say in how it is dealt with. We are doing constitutional reform in Jamaica, or supposedly doing constitutional reform. And number one, they will not discuss the provision in the Constitution that deals with boundary. Okay? Secondly, just today, the Jamaican Parliament passed a law to amend Jamaica's constitution
It was
without
yesterday,
any
Ambassador.
consultation with the opposition, while constitutional reform is supposed to be undergoing
Right.
in Jamaica. There's an uproar out of it. The Advocates Network put out a release. NIA, the National Integrity Action, put out a release. And the opposition is threatening to withdraw from the Constitutional Reform Committee. If this is allowed to stand, the Jamaican government at any time can amend any part of the Constitution that can be amended by a majority or a supermajority in the Parliament without consultation with the opposition. It cannot be allowed. It's an abuse of power. And especially in the context of having a constitutional reform committee at work.
Mr. Nelson?
You know, we look at the changes that have occurred in the U.S. with regards to marriage and regards to same-sex marriage, to regards to recognition, not just of LGBTQ, but you have that IA now added for all the folks who are uncertain about who they are, and the fact that what we have now is a division in the U.S. between Republicans and others, I won't say Democrats, all others over the designation for bathrooms and where certain people need to go for participation in bathrooms as well as sports activities. They do not want those people who are doing sex change, transgender people, in the bathroom of the sex that they're claiming. They want them in the bathroom of the sex that they were born with. So we said the vision here clearly in the US. Can you imagine this conversation happening in a normal manner in Jamaica or any other country without people going to war, fighting each other over use of a bathroom? You know, a male shows up in female bathroom, appendages and all out. What do you think will occur in that bathroom in Jamaica? So you have all of these things that the US have had to overcome. I wouldn't wish it on a third, I won't say third world, countries of the South, which they're called today, right? So these are changes that are massing here in the US that the US is conveying to the rest of the world. Because right here in the US, we're multicultural, we're multinationals. And these nationals take these things back home with them. So it's very difficult to accommodate those nationals when they go home because they're going to get beaten or they may get killed. That's plain and simple. Now, with the Caribbean countries who have this acceptance of same sex, I'm not sure if everything there is fully open and blessed by all members of the population. I don't think they have reached that level yet. But certainly, as the ambassador alluded to, the US may be doing this to put more pressure on a discussion for the new reform, constitutional reform that's coming up. I don't know where Jeffrey went to. And Ambassador, if you're looking at that discussion, the Jamaica already ruled outright that they're not going to talk about the Buggery law. So how can you entertain a revision of the Constitution without revising those things which are modern and which are important, especially in this case, for diplomatic grievances to be settled, right? And you really can't shut up a diplomat who comes to Jamaica with their same-sex partner. You can't muzzle them, but they take their life in their own hands, going out and doing whatever they're doing, whether it's on the beach or wherever else they want to do it. And that is a situation that Jamaica is bound, as you say, by law to provide security to all who come to serve in diplomatic positions. So it's beyond me how you would expect small countries to manage that situation. Well, is the US going to send teams down to educate and to do PR work around the island to get minds to change? What's going to happen?
Herb,
Yeah.
what kind of democracy do we have if we cannot tolerate contending views? You know, we claim democracy, but more and more I see it being eroded in Jamaica. But I want to, and the difficulties that you raise are real and very difficult for countries like Jamaica to handle. But I want to tell you this. In 2018, who was the president of the United States?
Donald Trump. I think you're going to steal what I was going to say too.
And in 2018,
yeah,
he changed the policy with regard to diplomatic immunity for same-sex partners,
Yes.
not same-sex spouse, same-sex partners.
Partners.
He withdrew diplomatic immunity for same-sex partners, but gave them an opportunity to get married here in the United States
Yeah.
to continue receiving diplomatic immunity. And from my research, there were at least 40 individuals affected at the time.
Yeah.
They were here enjoying diplomatic immunity in a same-sex partnership. And once the policy was changed, they had to be married
Yeah.
to continue to receive that. The U.S. State Department also has a policy that it does not send diplomats abroad who are in same-sex partnerships unless they are married.
Yep.
You know, so the issue is a very deep one.
But the
But
question, the
it
question
provokes
must be asked.
conversation. That's the important thing. It's
Yeah,
provoking a lot of conversation.
yeah.
But the question must be asked, Ambassador Ward and Herb Nelson Jr. How many other embassy or how many other diplomatical letter or cable was sent to Jamaica about other diplomats in other, whether it be Germany, whether it be America, whether it be Canada or the United Kingdom?
That's
I know
a
nothing about that.
That's a very interesting question, because as my friend in Trinidad told me, that several years ago there was a same-sex partner by a Netherlands diplomat in Trinidad who had diplomatic immunity in Trinidad several years ago. So if that occurred in Trinidad, who knows if similar circumstances do not exist in Jamaica? And that's a very interesting question. And if anybody knows of any such relationship within the diplomatic corps in Jamaica, I'd love to hear about it.
And you know something, Ambassador Ward? It begs to ask the question, who really advising the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade? And I also want to go to this topic too. It is alleged that the Prime Minister of Jamaica came through a airport here in the United States, was not received by any member of the Secret Service. The Jamaican embassy said that it was an error. They know the Prime Minister is overseas. So you're saying to me you did not reach out to your counterpart to say, look here, the payment is coming back into America to go back to Jamaica? Ambassador, you're a former ambassador. How does that work, sir?
Here's what happens here now. You heard the same thing I heard. And they're passing the blame onto a staff member. And apparently the ambassador has excused herself from that error by not having been at the embassy on a very urgent matter. She was absent. Now, of course, the staff member shall forever remain unnamed. But let me put it another way. Sometimes that request for diplomatic courtesies is transmitted through the U.S. Embassy in Kingston.
Oh.
Sometimes it can be done either way. I think it can be done either way. So one has to wonder who really dropped the ball. And if it is true, well, apparently it is true that the Prime Minister on his way to Brussels to talk about Haiti, passed through the Miami airport, and had to go through regular security like everybody else, without any Secret Service courtesies, protection, or VIP courtesies that prime ministers are normally afforded when they travel to a US airport.
Ambassador, when the whole extradition saga between Christopher Dudus Coke and Jamaica, you never heard about Golding not offered diplomatical services when he traveled. So how is it that this current prime minister has put Jamaican foreign policy in jeopardy?
Well,
Go ahead.
in the case of the Dulles-Cook extradition process, the way it was handled was a little bit clumsy. There was a lot of delay in the legal process, with the Jamaican government not cooperating as the extradition treaty requires. But I don't believe there was any outright statement saying to the US, we're not going to do this. I think it was a matter of shuffling the feet while the delay. Herb may be able to give you a better take on this because he probably knows a lot more than I do.
There was a case before Dulles, Ambassador,
Okay.
of a man who they say knew everything about the Jamaica Labour Party and their ills and their transgressions. That's the first person that they had asked for,
Okay.
right? I won't say it's the first person there. It was the first prominent um,
Individual.
person, yeah, that they wanted badly.
Uh-huh.
And they turned him down flat because they knew they couldn't touch him. That's the same individual, Jeffrey. If you remember, I spoke about him being in a house in Montego Bay in the district of the Minister of National Security.
Oh, yes.
The DEA and the HSI, they raided the house. His vehicle was parked out in front of the house. That's the same house, Ambassador. If you remember, they found over 7 million Jamaican dollars and over 4 million US dollars in the house.
I'm not a word about it now.
Right? This individual has been wanted from the 1980s till now and has never been turned over to the US. I don't even believe they travel further than the district they were holed up in Montego Bay, and they felt protected until that raid that day. Now, two things happened. After the raid, the individual was taken in and subsequently disappeared. And the individual's vehicle that was parked in front of the house also disappeared. So they know the individual and they know the vehicle. Now, when Dulles came around, they thought they could pull the same stunt. But the DA and DOJ was determined they're going to bring him to justice because they knew most likely they could flip him and he would have a lot to say, which turned out to be true because it's cost people their jobs. But the bottom line is they know where the people with affluence over the politicians are. They know who they are and they know who they want to go after when they go after them. Right? And the one person who, had he gone to the US, would have talked and would have put everybody's business in the street was Dudus's father. And they had to kill him before he declared he was going to talk. So he was a dead man once he made that declaration. So, this is Jamaica. This is who we are. And this is how terrible things have become.
l- let us go back to our topic, because it is a shame that the Prime Minister of the country and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, the good lady Camilla Johnson Smith, has not addressed the people of Jamaica and the diaspora. Is it that it's going to continue where America decide to put sanctions on Jamaica? Do you think it's leading to that, Ambassador Ward?
Look, I think Jamaicans have become accustomed to not being informed on important issues by the government and are not pursuing information in the way they should. And when the government puts out a release, the media regurgitate the words of the release, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that kind of irks me because they pretend to be writing a report about the release, but they're really quoting the entire release in their report. And they don't give another perspective other than the one that is in the release, even when there are lots of other information out there to rebut what's in the release.
Mm.
But
So
gentlemen, this is an issue which I don't really believe is going away anytime soon. I was on a program Sunday. I was on a program earlier today. I'm on this program. And I know there are a lot of people out there who are interested and many people who are worried about whether they will be able to get visas to come to the United States. I wouldn't be surprised if politicians on one side or the other are worried that their visas may be frozen, lifted, or denied in the future. So this issue is not going away. And we could be here discussing this all night. But it's not going away. And I maybe later on we can come back to revisit this issue.
yes.
If there are any new developments that we know of.
Yes.
But to be honest, I didn't expect to be on for as much as an hour to discuss this issue. So I hope
Ambassador,
I
it's
hope
been
I'll be excused shortly.
yes, indeed, and it's been a long while that we haven't have you present on the Make We Talk program, sir, because a lot of people have been asking where's Ambassador Curtis Ward, and that is why I kind of reach out to you many times. But I know you're a very busy man.
But don't you know that I stay away from controversies?
and but because we don't want nobody to say that you're a whatever ambassador and whatever, with the disrespectful ways. But
I,
ambassador,
you see, I like to speak the truth. I like to speak the truth.
I want to throw something in here, Jeff, and
Go ahead.
and I see Luke is on. In 2016, a very close friend of mine became the head of Homeland Security investigations in Jamaica. And when he grew up like me on Judeo-Christian values and other values that, of course, our parents instill. He's a Jamaican American. He was from Mandeville, in Manchester. And he said to me, Herb, I am in doubts about why I even came here. Because at our embassy, it's like a free-for-all. And I said, what are you talking about? And he referred to people using illicit substance on the outside. And he also talked about wife swapping parties that were occurring at the embassy. Now, when you look at these things that we promote overseas in the various embassies, and by virtue of having worked in the community, intelligence community where I work, there's a lot of stuff that I had privilege to know about. And we knew it was happening in the embassies, and some of it spilled out, like when the drinkers and the carousers spill out into the streets in Saudi Arabia and other places, right? So as Americans, we have a hard time respecting the laws of different nations. And when I first looked at this, I was saying, well, damn, here we go again, right? And I even brought up the fact that we still have laws against fornication in this country. And above all, we have laws against adultery. And now we want to go overseas. We're breaking these laws, but we're going to add another one to it. And how can we just ram this down people's throats and tell people, look, take it or leave it? And God knows that when our young people migrate to the US, they're faced with a dilemma in the crowds that they run around with as to which laws they're going to break, because it's the thing to do. Don't worry about the police. Don't worry about the authorities. We're going to do this, and we're going to have a good time doing it. So where do we stand in this country when it comes to morality and raising our kids on a value system, right? When people tell me forget church, nothing that they say
Hold on
is
there for me, Sir Nelson. Luke, can you mute your mic for me, Luke, please? Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. When they say forget church, and they proceed to start disrespecting their parents, that's the first thing that goes usually. Rebellion. They become rebellious. And then we lose our kids. And a lot of Caribbean families go through that up here. They lose their kids. They can no longer establish control over them. Everything that they've taught the kids when they were back in the home country goes to hell in a handbasket. So in the US, we have got to decide how we're going to behave in our home states, cities, towns, before we take it overseas and bring the US name into disrepute. But we see time and time again, when people break the laws overseas, that the US says, hey, you can't hold them, you got to hand them back. So we're seeing a type of bullying, if I could use that term. If not bullying, it's a dictatorial position based on who you're dealing with. And something has got to give. We can't keep doing that, or else we're going to lose out to the Chinese and whoever else wants to come in and occupy the space that we once were held in high esteem. Okay.
Go ahead, Ambassador.
I just want to remind you I'd asked for permission to exit.
I was hoping that I could get Luke to ask you one question before you go.
Well, you want to go ahead and do that? Because I
Luke,
need to.
Luke,
Ambassador said things are getting too hot, so we need.
yes, and I know he's a person who is on time with things.
Yes.
Luke George, welcome to the program.
No, he's a diplomat, so maybe we need to have him advising them on this situation because that's part of diplomacy. But Ambassador, have you been called for any advice from the Jamaican government?
No, sir.
Would you be prepared to give advice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My question's answered.
I'm
How do
I'm one of those people who put Jamaica first and will do anything that I can to uphold the good name of Jamaica, to enhance its good name. And if I have something I can contribute, regardless of which political party is in power, I will contribute.
Because I get to understand, and I'm gonna Ambassador go, I get to understand that the Minister of Foreign Affairs has never, ever, or the ministry itself, or even the Prime Minister, has never reached out to the two former Jamaican ambassadors that I know, Ambassador Curtis Ward and Ambassador Luma Samba.
Certainly not to me.
nor have
And
they reached out to Virtual White Man? Um, so it would be, it's very sad because here is it that you have a wealth of experience between Ambassador Ward, Ambassador Loon Asamba, Ambassador Virtual Whiteman, and these people have acted above board in terms of their responsibility. There's something that the ambassador said that is interesting because a lady who is now being filed for by her son just a while ago said to me, I heard that you were on the Jeffrey Tavares show and that you may be able to advise me. I said to her about what? She said she's deeply concerned and her son is concerned that the application may see the process slowing down as this row continues to take place. Um, but the question now, Mr. Tavares, the minister have said there is no row.
She's lying.
Uh, and
It's full time. No,
so,
no. It's full time. We call a spade a spade. With all due respect to Ambassador Ward and this on the program here, and other people are listening, it's full time. The Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade speak the truth. And whenever a person is silent about a thing, it goes up. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs has been silent along with the Prime Minister and along with the Minister of Misinformation. Jeffrey, behave yourself because you have a diplomat on the program here tonight and you respect the ambassador.
thank you.
Ambassador, your closing remarks before you go to your fellow Jamaicans, both in the diaspora and in Jamaica.
What was that?
Your closing remarks before
Oh.
you go to your fellow Jamaicans in Jamaica and in the diaspora.
Well, my fellow Jamaicans at home, I think we can improve on the quality of our government if we relentlessly demand transparency and ask the government to come forth with information rather than make it difficult for people to gain information about the actions it takes one way or the other. And Jamaicans tend to look at different issues. And after 24 hours, they move on to something else. There is no consistency. There is no continuity. One of the few groups I see that is consistent, going out there and putting out releases, is the Action Network. They are relentless in pursuit of issues which they think are very important to Jamaica. The National Integrity Action do put out some good statements from time to time, but they're not consistent. I don't see, when all this issue was going on with the Haitians, which is a straightforward humanitarian issue, and the travesty of taking them to court and fining them, imposing monetary fines and jail term on the adults, to me was a travesty of justice and the denial of human rights and the right to asylum and refugee status. But I didn't see until after the fact the human rights group in Jamaica raising its hand and say, wait a minute, They waited until after a judge had acted in the case. And when the court administrator said that they had an interpreter, I don't know what the language competency of that interpreter may have been, but I'm more likely to believe that that interpreter spoke French and not Creole.
Yes.
And I am inclined to believe that the entire group of Haitians, considering their economic status, did not speak French but spoke Creole. So when they tell me that they were given advice, they didn't even specify whether the advice was before or after the trial. You know, and I don't consider a trial a kangaroo decision. But, you know, those are the things that bother me with the Jamaican public. They really do not step up. And if you poll them, you will find that the vast majority of Jamaicans believe that the government should not be deporting these Haitians. But they don't say so, they don't open their mouth. Why? Political tribalism is such a way that if you're opposed to a government action, you are the opposing party. And you're silent when it is your party in power. Jamaica has to get past that. And I hope every day for that to happen. Members of the diaspora, you cannot let up in your advocacy for the rights of the Jamaican people. We do a lot to help Jamaicans economically, socially, educationally, health-wise. But we have to go beyond those, and we have to become advocates for the rights of the Jamaican people. Unless we do that, we are doing a disservice to our compatriots at home. And that's my parting statement for tonight.
As usual, Ambassador always do a spicy departure speech. And I like that about him. Former Jamaican ambassador to the United Nations, hail from the parish of St. Elizabeth. Sorry, St. Elizabeth.
St. Elizabeth.
Yes. Ambassador Curtis Ward, thank you for coming on, sir.
Always
Please do not be a stranger.
Okay, Jeffrey. All right, Herb, it was nice being with you.
It's a pleasure.
Conversing with you on this program.
Yeah, thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Good night, Ambassador.
Night,
Good
night.
Sir Luke.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Yes, what
Ambassador said something very interesting a while ago, Jeffrey.
Yes, go ahead.
Haiti is a member. Haiti is one of the member of the 15 countries that make up CARICOM, and yet in the crisis, the member states have not gone in to sort of support Haiti. I'm glad Ambassador pointed it out that truly, when you look at it in terms of the humanitarian crisis, if I'm a member of a body, I would want to think that that body would step up, and with the vast amount of expertise in the Caribbean, that we would have sort of been a voice for the Asian people. Deporting them if they're a member of the state. We have the CSME, the Caribbean, where people can move around, and we should have been looking at it in terms of the skill sets that we are inheriting from Haiti. We see what is happening in Haiti, and I don't think we have really been our brother's keeper in this regard. Somebody in the chat.
Look, if it's the same way, the current Minister of Foreign Affairs, she and the Prime Minister went over the globe lobbying for help for Haiti. And she's aware of the Haitians refugees in Jamaica. And what has the Minister of Foreign Affairs do? Not one damn thing. And that is why they took the Haitian refugees to court. And it's a damn shame. Luke, you having two things? It is a damn shame. It is a damn shame that we are lobbying to help Haiti, but yet we can't give them refugee status. If this was Jamaica, if we were in a political and economic crisis and we go to Haiti, wouldn't we want them to help us? But yet we sit down and we allow the courts in Jamaica. The people have no money, they are hungry. The people have no money, they're hungry. What sort of heart do we have in our country? And yet the Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade is traveling the globe asking for help for Haiti. What's such hypocrisy?
Well, isn't that the everyday practice of government? Somebody in the chat asked me if America is about diplomacy or dictatorship. Look, history has demonstrated that larger nation has always been oppressive to the will and the development of smaller state. It is a question for us here, as Herb Nelson pointed out, to retool, recalibrate, and come again. We are very dependent on the United States, and I keep on making the point that the visit to Jamaica by former President Barack Obama was to remind us that the United States has always stepped up and helped us. Whether or not we have been treated fairly, our government has always said that they share a close tie with the United States. And we could go back to the Petro-Carib Venezuelan deal when the now Prime Minister, went to Washington to meet with, and he was one of a few Caribbean leaders. Another Caribbean leader that I used to admire was Prime Minister Gonzalez, Ralph Gonzalez. They went and they negotiated, and Jamaica pulled out of the Petro-Carib deal. What was the Petro-Carib deal? We were being given oil at a far reduced price, and in turn, we benefited where students could have made application. Students who were pursuing a higher level of study could have applied and they would get scholarship. And these scholarships were what were able to propel these students to break the twin scourge of poverty. Yes.
But I have to correct you in something. Comrade Rolf Gonzalez did not take part in the whole deal of the Petro-Carib deal, you know. When,
no, he did not.
Still a part of it.
No, he did not. But there was something that he needed. I thought that he could have said that I didn't say that I know that he was there, but I know that he did not necessarily go along with what the other people are saying. And this is why I'm saying, Jeffrey, the truth of the matter, and this is what has made the Barbados Prime Minister appealing to so many young people, the way she talk about the disadvantage of larger state when it comes to smaller state. And she has made it she has made some public utterances that I admire her for her tenacity and her courage. And the challenge with Jamaica is when you have alluded to it, that are we becoming like Haiti? When in truth and in fact, what we have not been able to do is to sort of galvanize the strengths of the islands and to sell the Caribbean as a whole package. Since we are part of CARICOM, we are more like rivalries in some part. But the question then, if this thing persists, and Herb was given a scenario when I came in, if this thing continue to persist, what will it mean for Jamaica? Outside of visa, What will it mean for trade? What will it mean for tourism? If we lose the American tourists because the government now said we will sanction you if you travel to Jamaica, similar like how many of them will come to Jamaica and then they'll go to Cuba, because they don't necessarily want to take that trip down from the US to Cuba. They'll come here and they'll go on to Cuba. What will it mean for the everyday Jamaican? What will it mean for the remittance that Jamaicans depend from their families, and for the programs that the wider Jamaican group
Yeah.
support? And to me, it is reckless that we are being told by both Ambassador Audrey Marks and our Minister of Foreign Affairs that there is no row. There is really nothing for you to worry about, and it shows the level of contentment that government have for its people. Because on one hand, I really think you should be preparing us if you don't have the maturity to really negotiate with the United
Oh, but,
States.
but, but Luke,
And
Luke, Luke, how can they be preparing us? And I need Herbert to come into this. How can they be preparing us when they're there trying to figure out if the American government going to send extradition treaty for some of them?
yeah, but they should.
Herbert,
Um, God bless America. I hope that they do extradite some of them. I hope that some of the cases that and the investigations that have been carried out, I would like to see them level the playing field. I'd like to see some people answer, but you have to now ask Herb Nelson, what are diplomatic ties if we cannot sit at the table as two sovereign nations and really have a fulsome discussion? Because I believe that there's always a way around the problem, but if you're not willing to concede, then what are the what if? And that is what I think is fearful to a lot of us.
Herb Nelson.
Look, um, the U.S. is very meticulous when it comes to negotiations. The U.S. can tell you what you're thinking before you even express yourself. What does that tell you? If you come into a major negotiations with the U.S., they probably have your game plan because there's somebody inside your contingent that probably mapped it out for them ahead of the negotiations. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So the U.S. does not play to lose. They play the game where they give you a ceiling to aim at, which is not the wealth of what they can give up, but they give you that ceiling, and once you bump your head against it, and they say, "Oh well, you got me," and they agree to it, you feel like you have accomplished. Why? Because they know what you want. They can work things out um, using AI and using other methodologies today. Why? Because they can scan all them computers in them government offices where you're gonna gather all your information. They can know what you're researching, and they can bring it to you in a proposal that make your eyes pop. So wow, I didn't know we could gain all these things. But the bottom line is the US itself is having problems. You're dealing with a country with a split personality. You're
Mm.
dealing with Trump and what Trump brought to the table, and what Trump told these people that a bunch of us are shithole countries. Pardon my French,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mhm.
And now we got to show that we're not really a S-hole country, that we can stand on our own 2 feet, and that we can gain the respect of the US and others. And we're dealing with the powers to be across the world, which is China, the UK, Canada, French, and the US. So when you want to negotiate a position with the US, you have to realize that everybody wants to leave the island if they want a comfortable place to settle down. They're heading for the United States of America. Even though we have tens of thousands of deaths, even though we have crime that's getting rampant, but they know there's a place in the US where they can go and settle down and they don't have to see none of that. Is there a place like that in Jamaica? How do you know there's nobody seeking revenge against you for the things you've been doing to them all the years that you've been in power? So the bottom line is people come to the US for safety and security, in spite of the fact that we have about 400 different mass shootings so far this year, in which hundreds of people have been shot or died. So I'm not telling you anything you probably don't know and you haven't read about or assessed. But this is the US. It's a unique animal. And it's like they say about New York. You either love it or you leave it.
You know something, Herb? I
Yeah.
think what we need to educate our people that they understand. When you apply for a US visa at the American Embassy in Jamaica, in Kingston, or the American Consulate, or whatever they call it, it is not a right, it is a privilege they give unto you.
Yep.
Just like the Jamaican government can withdraw the passport from you at any time. So don't believe that America has a right to give Jamaicans visa, or Canada, or England, or Germany. It is a privilege. It's not a right. And we need to let our people understand that. And also, when America decide to withdraw from Jamaica, can we sustain ourselves?
We would need to learn more Chinese at that point. Then
they did that in Cuba, and Cuba telling to know what do we have? We have sold every almighty God thing out. We sell out the backside. We sell out Air Jamaica. They're selling out the limestone. Right now, the powers maybe want to sell the cockpit country too.
Well, China doesn't want all of that. China will settle for air base at Vernon Field, bring all their weapons of war to Jamaica, and that port area of 600 acres that they got, they can bring some warships in there so that they can say to the US, well, now we're in your backyard. How do you feel about that? What is the US going to do? Recreate the Cuban Mr. Crisis all over again? See, I'm just saying these things. This is how you use various things to leverage your position. Had Jamaica given Goat Island to China, China would have run the flag up on Goat Island and said, well, this is now China.
Yep.
Goat Island was a German submarine base back in World War II. So China would feel privileged to bring some of their submarines in there too, right? This would have been an offset for China and would give China some leverage to say that, yes, you can intimidate us in the South China Seas, but we can intimidate you in the Caribbean Seas. You know, and you don't want to get caught in the middle of that tit for tat.
Yeah. You know something to her? Let me make Andrea, you asked a question in the chat room. Read the back of your Jamaican passport. I don't have mine here with me. It's somewhere locked up safely. But read the back of your Jamaican passport. And it will tell you The passport is a property of the Jamaican government. Whether they pay for it, yes or no, they can take it away from you if they see
And that,
fit. Go ahead, Lou.
mhm. You know, Herb Nelson, it's interesting as we have this discussion. I remember when there was the whole
Oh,
thing
we
of
can't see you tonight,
um
Lou. Where you hiding?
look, no, may I do something at the same time,
Go ahead.
Jeffrey. Me have to multitask. Um, I remember her when this whole thing about the gays in the gully in New Kingston. The United States was not one of the countries that were accepted them, you know. It was more Europe, which is quite interesting. And then in this new dispensation, the United States is pushing the whole idea that we should be more tolerant to people of different sexual orientation. And the fact of the matter is that Jamaica has now switched Black Dog for Monkey because, yeah, while we're skirting up the Chinese and them giving us all of this money, my children, my grandchildren are going to be indebted to a foreign country for the rest of our natural life, which means that since our independence to this day, we have not developed the capability as a country. And, you know, we should look at the Taiwan model of how they look at their development, food security. Um, then you look at the technology, and then you invest in your human capital. Because if you are to look at it like that, then we would be in a much better position to negotiate with larger states because of the capacity. Because if the embargo is lifted off Cuba tomorrow, Cuba would do far better than other countries in the region, and even would, in terms of the human capital, would be able to compete at a higher level and a higher IQ with the United States in terms of how they have invested in the training and the education of its people. My concern is that I have not seen Herb Nelson the experience that is required when you get into this chokehold position to be able to come out of it without the majority of Jamaican, home and abroad, significantly affected by the mishandling of the situation. Because say that I was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I just said to the United States, the country constitution do not recognize same-sex marriage. Put this individual in a position in the embassy. Send me their particulars and let me approve them as an employee with all of the diplomatic immunities.
No,
And
but
we are at
hold on there, Lou. Remember, you're gonna say, um, Sir Nelson can back me up on this. Ambassador Ward said that there's a part in the is it Geneva Convention or what is it again?
Geneva Convention.
Yes, that state that it's the receiving country are
It's
to
10
give
o'clock.
security. Isn't that so? Am I quoting Ambassador correctly?
Yeah,
Herb?
they have to give security to the diplomats that arrive in the country.
Right.
And
But
then
can Jamaica at this moment really give security to a diplomat of same-sex marriage? We signed on to the Geneva Convention law, you know.
Is that
We
what
signed on to it.
is that what Luke was saying, that they would have to give security regardless?
Is that so, Lou?
Yeah, going back to the Geneva Convention, it simply means that the receiving state has to look at the application. it is somebody that you're saying that has to work within your embassy because that person has a particular skill set, and then you provide them with all of the amenities that is there. Treat the application as separate. Create the position because you now recognize that the receiving state will will have a problem because of its the constitution that holds, and in that constitution it has a boundary clause that may not be favorable to the United States, but it is the Jamaican people who have said that we want that clause in there because, after all, we are sovereign and we should decide. So the row is bigger. There are other pieces to to this jigsaw puzzle that we may not have the details to. This is now roughly 3 weeks, Jeffrey, since this thing has now exploded in the public's domain, and the United States have just remained quiet. And to me, they're buying their time when they are going to make their final blow. And it is the man
You
who
would be
has.
surprised if the final blow is to take away the head of state.
Well, well, if that is what the outcome is, we will see. We certainly saw in the newspaper that the head of state eh, entering the United States was not given the usual pomp and pageantry of the office fitting the leader of a sovereign nation, and so I think that the United States is just stacking up the cards, but the bloodletting is who is really going to feel it. The head of state may be able to have options to go elsewhere, as we have seen in other situations when a larger nation goes in and they ask for a removal of an individual, and somebody else in the world grant them, possibly China,
Um,
grants
um,
them grants them
um,
asylum.
yes, but we must ask a question, doing. I'm gonna ask her this question. Mr. Nelson, do you believe the American government, of all that they have on Jamaican leaders, do you think that this is the time where they say, okay, you all know what I want to do? Then I'm gonna do what I want to do. In other words, you all are playing games with me. I am the bigger whale. And I know that I have certain things on certain government officials. Are they gonna say, okay, we're gonna start take away visa from this and ask for this to come into this? Or fly into the country and just take what they're supposed to take?
The US is not going to come here and take what they're supposed to take. They're going to be diplomatic. But there's a lot of investments, there's a lot of interests that Jamaicans hold within the United States. And if the US were to restrict visa and restrict travel to those Jamaicans, that may cause them and their families to suffer quite a bit. So, and I'm sure not all Jamaicans are anxious to travel to the UK or to China as they would have in the past, right? China, when you look at China and you're seeing the issues that the Africans endure over there, then you realize there are difficulties, race relations wise, for Black people moving into China. And then when you look at the UK is running us out of town as it is, telling us and our grandparents and parents who are there, it's time to leave. Why? Because they have a lot of Ukrainians who have they taken in over the years, and they'd rather have a whiter UK than a mixed multiracial society, which they have to endure anyway, because of not just Black people, but because the Asians as well that occupy the place. So when you're looking for the perfect situation, It may still be Canada, because Canada seems to be maintaining respect for all others. And, the Canadians in the long run will never replace the US and its power, but they're there as an option. And people might look to them uh, as that option that they need to exercise. Even though we're having problems with the Canadians right now with the labor,
Our program.
the workforce program, yes.
You know, I am sitting here and I am
Jeffrey,
huh?
um, I just want to respond to something. Black love, I am not inciting panic. If you talk
Look,
to
look,
anybody,
look, hold
no,
on a
no,
minute.
one second,
Hold
Jeffrey. I'm not inciting panic. If you talk to any Jamaicans listening to this, no, we are all asking what is going to be the outcome, and we all are having discussion in our own circles and outside of our circles as to what possibly this means at this time for us. At a time when we are having the second bout of COVID, we're having a massive heat wave, we're having water shortage, we're having issues of getting food, we have a high electricity bill, we're in the middle of getting children back to school. People, the Jamaican people live in panic every day because we have seen more and more government leading to the side that is not beneficial to the people of Jamaica, but are making decisions that are causing our lives to be even more harder than it was before. Hence, yes, you asked me another question. I think that most countries,
Hold on a minute for me, look. If we spend enough time answering and replying to some of the things that the people say in the chat room, we'll lose our concentration on what we're here to talk about. I am not saying you shouldn't answer them, you know. Yes, we have to answer them because they're here to listen to us. But some of the questions that they put on the chat room, honestly, I just bypass it. Because one of them is saying that Herbert doesn't understand US foreign policy. And they do not know the background of Herb Nelson Jr., but yet they're saying it. So I don't answer them. So it doesn't make any sense we stand here to answer what they're saying out there not saying. We're here to speak. Let us speak and see what we can suggest to the government. Because a government who don't inform its people. It's over 3 weeks, they said, or 2 weeks now this thing happened. And not a word from the Prime Minister of Jamaica, nor the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
and
What
that's
is,
worrying.
what is
That
it?
is worrying because you would have thought that no, that Nesta likes to come out and misinform us, that at least to say to the people, this is what is happening. We're at this stage of the development, or we're in this round of the talk. Nothing to be worried about. We have the assurance of the American through the embassy that we will negotiate until we have arrived at a mutual position. Hence, persons who have made appointments should not be canceling them because there are cancellation of some appointment now because people are concerned. But the wider concern, Jeffrey, has to it lends itself to what is it in Jamaica that we have to offer at this time? And if we were to stand on our own 2 feet, what would sustain us outside of remittance? What do we have that we can build on? What has this government created that makes us so attractive that the rest of the world will rally to us because we have something unique, that the rest of the world would want to buy our products and services? And that's the question. Herb Nelson, what drives the growth of the economy, outside of foreign exchange? What else should we have had as a component that this government would have introduced and this administration, that we know that Jamaica would have been making a rebound, so that we, as a country, we would be so robust to say to people, thanks but no thank you, because we're in a position now not to kiss anybody's ass but to kick it.
It's a very good question, excellent question. Where I have been disappointed, and many Jamaicans in the diaspora have been disappointed, is Jamaica is not dominating the marijuana ganja trade as we had hoped that they would. Right? There's a lot of places like, say, California that was indebted up to their eyeballs, and they managed to dig out from indebtedness with an $8 billion a year marijuana industry. Right? Jamaica just lacked that creativity, that imagination that was needed to prepare for the day that things were legalized and to jump all over it. Instead, we see the same internal struggle over preferential treatment based on colorism and other issues that are underlying and ruining the relationships between different groups in Jamaica. Right? The only thing that Jamaica has been able to do is to take its culture abroad and capture the imagination of people. But in the tourism trade, we see where we're failing miserably because the money is not staying in Jamaica. And so we have to hope and pray that somebody with outstanding leadership qualities come along and change that equation around. Here in the United States, from the Institute of Caribbean Studies viewpoint, we have asked repeatedly that the CBSI address the needs of the Caribbean, not just the U.S. needs. We always say that we protect the U.S. and we're the U.S.'s third border, right? We stop a lot of nasty things from entering the U.S., nasty people, nasty things that will seriously damage the U.S. economy. But at the same time, they're not stopping all the weapons that are coming out of the U.S. into the Caribbean and proliferating across everybody's shores and causing massive damage to the economies. So when those people out there are running them out and saying that, oh, we don't know what's going on and we don't understand the policies, we understand the policies very well. And we have worked very hard to create legislation that will make it a two-way street rather than just a one-way that does not expound on the security for the Caribbean and the development in the Caribbean. So we are working hard to get other recognitions, and hopefully, because of this government that's in power, it it behooves us to utilize the offices of people like the vice president, who should be showing political favor to Jamaica. But then here we come with this huge brouhaha over the gay people being assigned to Jamaica, or LGBTQ, I should say, and everything gets stood up on its head.
But Herb, you said something that the VP should be giving, showing kudos to Jamaica. I don't know if it's true. It's alleged that the current VP of the United States didn't he want to take a photograph with the current Prime Minister of Jamaica?
I didn't hear that, and I don't believe it's true. What I know is she has given monies in different programs and directly to Jamaica with the hope that they can put more into Jamaica's communities and stop the bloodletting.
And the question must be asked, where are those money now? Have we seen anything about what those money should give them?
That's $1 million question. We haven't seen anything from the COVID funds to the monies that were given under Trump's ambassador under the current administration, and even from the UK and Canada, right?
And you know,
We're not transparent and we're not accountable.
right. And you know something, Herb Nelson and Luke George. Do you all remember when the former ambassador under Donald Trump, Donald Tapia, said that Jamaica is dealing with a two-headed dragon? You all remember that statement that he made?
Yeah, and it was
He's dealing with a two-headed dragon, and they must be very careful. We end up selling out the port to the Chinese. It is when a country starts its own port, you know, the country is going down the drain. What else are they going to say?
And here's another $1 million, Herb. We usually hear in the refrain that we enjoy a mutual beneficial relationship with the United States. Certainly, again, with border security, certainly with trade. What is it that we were trading with the United States?
Well, the only thing that we trade with the United States, as I see today, we can't even say bauxite because that has been a dead issue for a while. It's tourism. We depend heavily on Americans coming down here to spend their money. You know, anything else has been, you know, we go with our palms up, begging for stuff, right? And we got a lot of.
And this, Jeffrey, is what I want us to spend our energy on. What it is about Jamaica, Herb Nelson, that in this new dispensation that we can package. You speak about the culture. You talk about the culture, and we can add to that sports. Slowly, we're losing reggae to the Asians. And if we're not very careful, it may just become the music of those people and not ours. But when you think of Jamaica before my time, still a young man, feeling my way around Jamaica and trying to understand. You used to talk about our bauxite, you used to talk about our food that people would largely consume it. We used to refine oil and sell it back to the rest of the world. You look at the model that Lee Kuan Yew used in Singapore that was developed by, in the Da Costa report by the Michael Manley government. And yet Singapore is one of the most stabilized economy in Asia. And you ask yourself, with all the bright, intelligent people that we have in the world, what else could be added? We weren't able to negotiate sufficiently with the US government in developing our ganja into medicinal goods that we could sell. And we know that the green weed could have answered the bloodletting that the Jamaican dollar has suffered. For every one Jamaican dollar, Herb Nelson, 75 cents of that dollar service the international debt that we owe. So again, we welcome in China, but all we're doing is dumping debt after debt after debt on our people, and it weakens our position to have the testicular to say, you can't do that. So you build Portmore and then you ask the French to build a highway that the people who work so hard and wanted to own a little part of paradise have to pay to go there if they want to get there early, and they have to pay to leave there if they want to bring their children into Kingston to go to school. So I'm saying, what is exciting and innovating about our government? That we look at climate change, there's a lot to be to talk about there. We look at the slowness in the economy, the troubles that are happening in the banks, that is not the troubles in the health sector. Why can't we, Herb Nelson and Jeffrey Tavares, sit down and look at Jamaica as a company. And I've said this to you, Jeffrey. You build the stadium down there in Trelawney. It is grossly underused. You don't think an NBA team would rent it out if we retrofit it into a nice multifunctional complex, and we do housing for the team members, and we provide teachers for their.
It boils down to one thing. Luke George Cook and Herb Nelson Jr. The leaders of yesterday and today has never have a vision for this country. They have no plan for this country, one thing and one bit. You spend how much money to build a multi-stadium in Trelawney? And that is it. Because what? Money was stifled off and put in people's pocket. Today, I think it was Herb sent me the clipping of the newspaper. How much billions of dollars in overrun in roadworks in our country. And yet, the Kingston Public Hospital need beds. And yet, the people of St. Elizabeth need water. The breadbasket parish. What have they done? More than overrunning the two political parties in this country has milked this country down to nothing. The question we must ask ourselves as a nation and as a people, what have we gained for the $2 trillion of debt that this country is in? What have we gained? Nothing. More than highways
Jeffrey, I wouldn't totally agree with it that some of the leaders did try to advance a position. I know that to his credit, Norman Manley tried to unite again the whole idea of the CARICOM community. He was ahead of his time around coming together and having a single currency that we could use that to trade with our international partner and blend our skill set. I know that busters tend to have muddy the water by saying to the Jamaican people, or Norman is introducing socialism or communism, socialism, because it's like you buy you buy the cow, but when the cow is sold, everybody shares it equal, and that killed Norman idea of a united Jamaica. But I also know that he says that any development that does not empower people, and to his credit, that's why he created the social welfare. And I know people going around with it now to say I'm a PMP, but I think his idea of Jamaica was that we build on the social capital of our people so that they become marketable. So even recently when you hear Keith Duncan say Jamaica have high-end job but not enough people to take it, it's unfortunate, because Michael Manley, to his credit, pushed the whole idea of education as a means of empowering people so that we could create those high-end jobs and make our people more marketable. I think now in this dispensation is the time for the Jeffrey Tavares, the Herb Nelson, the Curtis Ward, and your brilliant listenership. Sometimes witty, sometimes they don't always agree with what we're saying as commentators. People have to recognize that we all have views and we see the different side of the glass. But it is time for Jamaicans, home and abroad, again, Herb Nelson, to look at what it is that we can offer. Because by and large, everybody just are fascinated by Jamaica. And Betty and Blaine tells the story of walking into Bali with her Bam Marley shirt on. And as she goes through the market, everybody is Bam Marley, Bam Marley. So people look to us, Jeffrey. It's not going to be sugarcane in this time. It's certainly not going to be coffee, because we did not even negotiate the coffee on the international stage and try to get the proper documentation so people can stop by it and mix it with inferior coffee. We didn't do that. But is there something, Herbness, that we can offer the rest of the world being that we are still at the connection point, so if Vernon Field is built, it would be a good place for people to actually travel into and to exist to other parts of the world instead of going around the globe. Do we have more herbs that we could offer the world? And what does that more look like? What is it that we can offer? We certainly need to improve security. We certainly need to improve customer service. We certainly need to improve
Hold on
our
there, Luke, because
healthcare system.
hold on there, Luke, because I think Herbert need to go for need to go, but I need to
Yeah.
ask Herbert a question, but Herbert just answer your thing and ask
There-
Herbert a question.
let me say this: we have more problems ahead than we have solutions. With the advent of AI, I already was in Jamaica and I saw supermarkets getting rid of cashiers and using automated systems. With AI, you're going to have more machine learning and you're going to have replacement of people in various white collar areas. So, can you imagine the services, the banks, the insurance companies, and all these other corporations down there that are service oriented, replacing its workers with AI. So Jamaica needs to try to figure out how to start a job sharing situation where one desk can accommodate 3 people. So maybe the company ought to run 18 hours a day, 6 hours for each person. Adjust the 40-hour work week down to maybe 30. Right? There's a lot of things Jamaica has to start studying now because AI is going to impact, and they don't want to be left behind. Right? So when you talk about the gains that we can make, certainly it's going to come from diversification of the type of tourism, health tourism, right? Introduce alternative medicine as a huge portion of that, right? There's so many things that we need to come up with ideas and diversify. So our friends in the chat, they have a lot of ideas as to what they want to hear, but maybe they ought to give you some ideas, Jeffrey,
Yes.
as to how we can diversify and how we're going to handle the AI situation. But I've a hard stop because I had a previous commitment which I got to go take care of. And Luke, good talking to you. Jeffrey, good talking as well. Enjoy the program. And to my friends in the chat, we'll talk again. We'll have more time next time.
Yes. As a matter of fact, Friday night we're gonna have a robust discussion with Senator Donna Scott Motley. So
Okay.
hopefully I'll tell you more about that, Herbert. Hopefully he can join us then.
Okay, well, I look forward to that. But thanks
Yeah.
much. Talk
You're
to you.
welcome.
Take care, Luke.
Yeah.
Luke,
All right, Herb. Well, yeah.
let me ask you this question. Following the amendment of the Constitution to increase the age of the Director of Public Prosecution, the Attorney General, don't you see what is going on in our Parliament?
To increase the age of.
Is it increased? I don't have it in front of me here, but the increase retirement age, rather, the increase the retirement age of the DPP and the Auditor General. Don't you think that is a breach of the Jamaican Constitution by the lawmakers of our country?
The Constitution is not an inclusive process that encapsulate the will and the wish of the Jamaican people. It is almost the same sort of imperialistic idea foisted us by a foreign country that is being foisted us under this current constitution. First and foremost, Jeffrey, if you have this high level of illiteracy and you're talking about the document that solidify how you treat with the development of a country and how do you protect the rights of your citizens. Again, it should be something that you're holding discussion on street corners, in Cornwall, Sex and Surrey. It is not an exclusive club of 21 selected persons who you think bear the intelligence and the mind of God to do it. We must be able to be looking at comparative studies on what holds the different structure of the Constitution. But again, we keep on saying that it is a constitution reform when it is really looking at removing the entrenched part of the existing Constitution to facilitate us as sovereign and facilitating a ceremonial president instead of a governor general and a prime minister who then may deem himself as the new SSR Führer. And although you hear things about term limits and you hear things about referendum and we are going to vote on it, who are the we? It is going to be a party supporters who you probably will be able to say to them, look here, this is better, it is going to be better for us. So it, in a sense, we're swapping black dog for we're swapping black dog for monkey. And it is not a reform that I, Luke George, as a citizen sitting here today in Kingston, feel that it is going to deliver to me the sustainable development activities and hold state powers accountable. Because here it is that before you even ask me that question, you prefix it by saying, Luke, if you ever see the amount of reckless spending that through contracts that have been awarded to members of the Jamaican workforce who bid with the government, the excess amount of spending and the money unaccounted for. And I'm saying to myself, my God, how can you be talking about that when a simple MRI to determine the health of somebody's kidney function, an organ that nobody wants to lose, one because it pressures the other, is the prices range from 60,000 downwards. So if you don't have $60,000, you're going to possibly lose your kidney, even with the possibility of free healthcare, because there are so many people in the queue waiting for a life-saving surgery that they may have expired. And as Mark Golden said, call them now if they have not fully expired, so that they can make a vote. So it's laughable. It's laughable in terms of it look as if we send people to the offices to do a job on our behalf, but they are incapable of doing it. Because if you ask people in my age group, in 2 years I'll be 50. And if you ask younger people, what is it that government is currently doing that is giving you the assurance that Jamaica is going to be better off as we approach the Vision 2030 mind? Tell me 10 successful things that government have done successfully since this administration tenure and previously. And it goes back, Jeffrey, to what Dan Anderson said. The age group and that core between 15 to 25 will tell you, resounding in one voice, none of the two have really done anything to put this country forward. And so, again, when we get to the stage, the lawmakers and the people who are having this discussion may be happy with what they're seeing, because the sentiment of getting rid of Britain out of the country, but not getting us out of the Commonwealth altogether, which is a lie, because they're not telling the people that we're going to still be a part of the Commonwealth. We will just not have a Governor General as head of state and the Queen as the head of state, but the lands will be the King. Sorry, the King. We're still in the Elizabeth beaten years, so we still not come out of it, right? But we're not being truthful, Jeffrey. Will police be more tolerant of how they treat with citizens? Will we
I
feel?
did touch on that, Luke. I thought I see the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. And don't quote me on this, my listeners and my viewers. Do not quote me on this, because I haven't read it as yet. But if my memory serves me correctly, I think I hear the minister said that police can lock you up without a warrant. Are you aware of that, Luke?
Police can what?
Lock you up without a warrant, or come and search your premises without a warrant. I need to.
It is wide, Jeffrey. It is widely practiced that there are times depend when you are living in a particular socio-economic when you live in a particular community. Why do I need to use these words? When you live in a particular community, it's an abuse of power. People enter your premises, you can't tell them about warrant, and them don't tell you what it is that they're there for. And it's interesting that while we were saying it is unconstitutional for the SOEs that went on for that prolonged period of time that saw people being picked up on the street, they were not processed within 24, 48, or 72 hours. But they were there in the SOE. They could have been remanded for almost 72 days, losing their gainful employment because the police had grievances as to how come they can't find anything on these people, and as they processed them, the processing was very slow. It was an abuse of state power, and there was no restitution for these people. Hence, you can see the high level of frustration amongst teenage men and women who were really struggling to put their lives together, and significantly suffered as a result of an unjust practice by the government. I'm surprised that the appellate court struck it down, but yet still, when the constitutionality of it was being questioned, there was nobody advocating more than the ordinary Jamaicans who were saying, we are the ones that are significantly affected by it. We are the ones. You must remember, I know, Jeffrey, that politicians have created an untenable situation in Jamaica when they went into this tribal politics. In Kingston alone, I say it all the time, 8 of the garrison belongs to the PNP, the other 7 belongs to the Jamaica Labour Party. It floats around every day out there in the public domain that our Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Security is now the godfather. So it is the return of the one done mentality by the Edward Seaga image. And the country has suffered as a result of the same people come out and they said, oh, we must stem the crime, we must put a lid on the crime. But yet still the Jamaican people feel that they have contributed significantly to it. How do you then contribute, then say that you're going to be the change that is going to bring about a more just and fair society?
Yes, as you touch on that, I am seeing in the Observer here. It was published at 7:47 p.m. earlier on tonight. It says Jamaica will end 2023 at close to 1,400 murders, said opposition spokesperson on national security Peter Bunting. Jamaica will end 2023 at close to 1,400 Jamaicans was murdered in this country. And the Minister of National Insecurity, who is the godfather for a constituency in St. James, where his constituency have the most people murdered, cannot stem the crime problem in our country. This is the country that we're talking about a 2030 vision for. We have lost Luke George. Oh, he's back. This is the country that we're talking about a 2023. A 2030 vision rather. And the Observer is saying this evening that Jamaica will end 2023 at close to 1,400 murders in this country. You think America not looking at Jamaica? They give Jamaicans money to help fight crime. The last time I checked, Jamaica getting the tune of Jamaican currency, $1.something billion from the United States to fight crime in Jamaica. Where's the money going? We sit down in the country, and all we do is talk about leave this and leave that alone. And who's comrade from who not comrade, and they style me I'm a member of the Labour Party and a member of this. $1.something billion is given to this country to help fight crime by the American government. And you all think that America is going to sit down and allow Jamaica to disrespect them? You all think that America is going to sit down and continue giving Jamaica this money to help fight crime and it's not going anywhere? Dog, me and support this country. Luke George?
Well, you know, you called the name of a previous American ambassador who was very controversial in his approach. He was, in fact, the first American ambassador that I know, and I've lived under quite a few, that did speak to the fact that although he said that a particular individual was trying to cue him to the direction that the Jamaica Labour Party was the most corrupt government. He had an opinion where he said the corruption runs deep right across the board. It was the first time an American ambassador was so bold in his pronouncement. Jeffrey, we have almost 800 and odd million or billions of dollars. I'm not sure if it is the millions or the billions that China has given us. England has given us in recent time, I think, the tune of £2 million or more. It could be more or less. I'm not looking tonight at the different things that I would normally look at. And we keep on getting money to fight crime, and yet still we're a small state, and so it is evident that if somebody said the projection is every year, you see the number increase. So it tells you that the mechanism that we have in place to really put a dent on crime is not working. And maybe why it's not working is because the people who are supposed to be the lawmakers are oftentimes the lawbreakers. It falls to the people of Jamaica again. And I see my friend in the chat room, I glance and say Black Love say he has some development ideas for vulnerable communities. And I'd love to share some of what I have with him. Jeffrey, there has to be a monitor and evaluation of every dollar that comes in to fight crime. Crime has to be fought at the community level. That means that you give the resources and training necessary, and you monitor and evaluate the outcome. The inputs have to be clearly defined, and the outcomes have to be measurable. We're not seeing anybody monitoring it. We are having these discussions and we're saying millions of dollars were given to COVID. Kamala Harris gave millions of dollars to the government of Jamaica, but there has been no accountability to the people of Jamaica as to how all of that was. But what you have in your hand, Jeffrey Tavares, is a document that says over the period of time, several contracts has been awarded. There has been a lot of money paid out, but we can't account for it. So while we are dying in one area, those criminal elements that are embedded and entrenched in our government are finding creative means and ways to continue to fatten themselves, and the people of Jamaica are looking more and more like the Marga cow. It is therefore the people that must stand up and say to these fat, as you would call them, Vim Vava and Vim Vavia or Vim Vavu,
No.
enough.
Don't. The word is the vum vava and vum vavi of the avalanche of opposite Andra.
All right, Jeffrey. It is the people who must send a message. You must look among yourself and now select your leaders. The people who best reflect that they have your desire, your goals at heart. They share the same journey. They cry with you. They eat with you. They sit with you. You can access them, and they have served your community incredibly well, so that Jamaica may see the welfare of the whole entire Jamaican and outside of Jamaica being catered to, and we reposition ourselves to take our seat in the world. We are still a country. We're still a country of promise. We have a lot more in us,
Yeah.
and we just need to cultivate that lot more and start to germinate it right up through the let and bread of the world.
Listen to this, then we're going to close. The National Work Agency, NWA, is in current cost overrun, totaling US $6.3 million, Jamaican $9.8 billion for rehabilitation work on 5 of 6 major roads under major construction. Now tell me something now. And some of these roads stemming from 2019, a cost overrun of 9.8 billion Jamaican dollars. They start the road to go into St. Mary, and there's so much billion and they just abandon it. And now it is saying that taxpayers' money will go down the drain and go in someone's pocket, totaling $9.8 billion when the Kingston Public Hospital is in need of help. Huh? And the question must be asked tonight, Luke George.
The University Hospital, the Bustamante Children's Hospital, the comprehensive clinics.
And the question must be asked also, why is the world-class Minister of Finance loaning Petrogram $5 billion? Why? What's going on in the world? We're facing a climate crisis, and the Jamaican authorities do not hold a summit on food. Then God help this country. The money that's spent on Petrojam, the who thief Petrojam oil, all now in the Ghana prison. How much thousands of barrels of oil has been stolen from Petrojam under this administration, and not a damn thing has done about it. I'm not talking about the 2030 vision. Huh? And it's full time. The People's National Party have the balls to stand up in the parliament against a Darrell Vaz and a James Roberts.
And I
You
miss
haven't been like
wholeness.
2 weeks.
And I miss wholeness.
And I miss his wholeness. It's time now Mark Golden have the balls to stand up against a
But
Juliet woman.
I thought she spoke to him as if he was her
Her son.
bonded slave. No, I don't think she can talk to them or something like that. I think she talks to this man as if he is her bonded slave. And she runs that parliament as if it is her own personal garrison. She display a lack of civility and decency that one would expect of a member of parliament and a member of the current administration.
And Daryl
I
Vaz.
I I
Daryl
I
Vaz.
I, I, I don't know. Daryl Vaz is a
So
man
what
that
I'm
has
telling
no
you,
moral conscience.
Daryl Vaz, James Roberts, and Everett Warmington, Mrs. Everett Warmington, because him a lashy, has no moral authority to ask anybody in Jamaica and the Jamaican Parliament to apologize. Daryl Vaz or Falls, nor James Roberts, nor Everett Warmington, Mrs. Everett Warmington, has no moral authority to ask any Jamaican or anybody in the Parliament of Jamaica to apologize about anything. And it's full time. The People's National Party, led by Mark Golden, stand up in the Parliament and tell them enough is enough. You can't make Mrs. Holness treat as you're some little boy, Mark Golden. You can't give in to the likes of Daryl Vaz and James Roberts and Mrs. Warmington. You cannot. Yes, what you said at the political meeting was wrong. But you, within the People's National Party, should have demanded that Everett Warmington apologize to the councillor caretaker in Portland for the words he used. You don't know that damn thing about it. So whatever you get in the Parliament, you must get it. Whatever you all get in the Parliament, you must get it. We have the likes of Everett Warmington and a Daryl Vaz and a James Roberts to apologize. How dare them? How dare Daryl Vaz, Everett Warmington and James Roberts to apologize? How dare you? Neither
Well,
Everett Warmington, Daryl Vaz.
Jeffrey. Jeffrey. I'd love to see you on that other side, and I'd love to see the match between Warmington, you, Daryl Vaz, and Jerry. I certainly would. It will help you with some of the dub plate, but you know what it tells me? The unscrupulous have no shame. These people of questionable character have no shame. Mark Golden, this is one of the reasons why people say you must develop the spine and you must stand. And I mean, and Michael Phillips tried.
Going on, Luke. This is not the party Michael Manley or Norman Manley form. Have some spine and some balls and stand up against these bullies. Because everyone go on and he's a bully for the Parliament, you know. I don't know why they have the likes of Everett Warmington in the Jamaican Parliament. Who the hell is Everett Warmington? He's a disgrace to the Parliament of this country.
It shows that some people, them born low, grow cheap, them must have bad habit. But it means that the value that we once talk about, morals and values that we once hold dear, is so low in our country. The morals of our people is so low that these people now have taken the same tenement situation of a big yard and carried to the Parliament, and it is displayed for the world to see, and they call it the diversity in their discussion. It is downright disrespectful. It is quite out of order. The utterances of the people are always asking for an apology. It is egregious because, I mean, just to think that Andrew, in the holding cell of Jamaica House, still have a Edward Warmington that him can't control, who told him unapologetically. He doesn't answer to him. He answers to the people in his constituency. And the people in his constituency feel that when he makes these public outbursts, yet there was a prime minister in this country who, because she never speak the Queen's English, but would have matched these people, no doubt, word for word, and she would never leave any stone unturned, was not given the respect that she should have been given. I say, though, Jeffrey, um, the Jamaican people must determine the course of their future. If this is what we have to offer the rest of the world as leadership, this low level of crassness and low level characters, players, low level players with their low level characters, then it's a sad day. What do you say then to the generation that is looking on? And what should we expect from them when this is what is now acceptable as leaders of our country? It is a telling story. In Jamaica, in the United States, you remember that the same joke that Mark Golding ran about the dead people, Donald Trump said a similar comment. He did, and it was really taken in character. People just laughed about it, and I think when I heard the comments from Mr. Golding, it was a laughable moment. Mr. Golding is not the charismatic sort of gimmicks or lyrically content like a Damian Crawford. And I was wondering if he was, because it seemed as if he was responding to something that somebody said, Jeffrey, in the audience.
I was watching.
But yeah, to me, if you look, he was responding to something that somebody said in the audience. And politics nowadays have inserted that level of humor, you know, where we're in the last election, even things that Waterbury and those comedian would say, people are repeating and people use lines from popular song. But was that worth the Parliament's time for them to be debating over that when the Jamaican people can't buy food, they can't pay their utility bills, the senior citizens are in shambles, the disabled communities are crying out for help, those that are marginalized are living by a string? Is that the best that we can go before the nation parliament to discuss when there are so many things that, you know, requires a fierce sense of urgency and a better use of our time? And let me tell you, all of Jamaica should say the Marshal should put out every single one on both sides until them. Yeah, man, there should be a way that we should move a referendum to ask them to leave. When you have this sort of terrible behavior, we the people in this new constitution should say, if you don't act in accordance to what we prescribed as sound morals and values, that must be the reflection of the society. Then you have to go.
Luke, the question must ask ourselves. The same people who are bringing us down, they're the same ones drafting the constitution? Or there's something wrong with me?
No, that me tell you, Jeffrey. But Jeffrey, that me just tell you, the lawmakers are the lawbreakers. You heard Mr. Warmington telling off some police and calling him colleague, Mr. There's a video that was going around where Mr. Warmington that tell him, "Me sick and tired of uno, me sick and tired of uno," and demoralizing police and telling them what they're not doing. And I am saying, I wonder if Warmington will have any mirror in their house. That house must be the house that is deprived of a mirror, because mirror on the wall, you know, do nothing either, Mr. Warmington. You know, do not. You call with chink. Because when you call a Jamaican who is expressing an interest to know what its government is doing in terms of development in that geographic location where I reside. And you talk about all the chink and ticks, and you maintain a seat in the nation parliament. Why we up in arms about Vibes Cartel? Why we up in arms about popcorn and alkaline when they sing? Why do we hold one moral standard when we talk about, oh, are the little dirty DJ boy them I mash up Jamaica? But we're not holding that standard under fire to the feet of these disgraced leaders who have and a skeleton them have, Mark Golden did a call out them skeleton, that's why them vex. So cause when him said the dead, if some of them dead they was to leave out of them closet, God know the American needs to call the dead that are in some of our local politician closet. I say go for it, America.
The same Mrs. Warmington got a national award. That's why I don't blame the late Wilmot Perkins, I don't want none. And there are some in the diaspora who is dying to get an award of all jackass. I don't want none from none of them. Because he's the Governor General, now the Prime Minister. Has any morals. They have no respect for the Jamaican people. By giving Herbert Warmington an award. Who's a disgrace to the parliament of this country.
So when you say bad behavior, I get awarded.
Yes.
So we're going to break out and go on, but then we'll give you one.
When you have a sitting member of parliament and a sitting minister look at a Jamaican citizen and call him chink, drunk, run, and fly. Huh? And we still have them sitting there?
And believe it, and believe it. What is shameful about it, their colleagues in the parliament laud them on.
The same Darrell Vaz and his wife clapped Herbert Warmington at the campaign trail. And the people of Jamaica, yeah, like a damn set of idiots. When a member of the parliament call a Jamaican, whether he's a PNP or a JLP, you call every Jamaican a chink and drunk. And they sit in the Jamaican parliament collecting taxpayers' money. This is the country we live in. This is the country we talk about.
Maybe why them collecting it? Because they do see us as chink and drunk. And especially all like me, we get headman drunkership car where they talk about them and I highlight people that's not leadership. That is what the United States is doing to us. It is a dictatorship. These are bully. These are people who feel that they are God. A prime minister who loves the title bro God. That's serious. I can see a similarity between SSR Führer, Hitler, and how I see this new current set of politicians are behaving. We're living in their world, Jeffrey, and them can out us out like chink and flies if they desire. They believe, because they're the untouchables.
You know something, Lou?
Touch them, America. I say touch them.
When people have the audacity because saying that America is bully and a dictator. You don't have a bully and a dictator in the House of Parliament in the Jamaica House. You have a bully and a dictator.
Boy, me can't hear
the Prime Minister of this country. Having morals and love the people of this country. Tell us what's going on. Speak to the people of the country, the same people who not call election. And go back and tell them a bunch of lies. Those are the people that vote for you. So why you can't tell us in Jamaica and America?
But Jeffrey, I'm hoping that the donkey that he gave the lady when she asked for road, he gave her a donkey. I hope that the donkey could speak.
One thing with the person give the donkey. He gave her 2 donkeys. I wanted the donkey for the person who handed over the donkey.
You know, instead of road, you gave her a donkey. Boy, interesting days ahead. Um, interesting days ahead, Jeffrey.
I apologize about him tonight. That's why
Well,
some people and I don't care.
that is the sort of passion that is resonating with the Jamaican population. For far too long, we have allowed the bully to silence us, and they have enjoyed the silence. They don't like people who have different opinion and want to keep them on their feet. And I don't have to apologize to anybody. Jamaica is not being
And
run; it is being managed, and the people who are in the parliament are not representing the people of Jamaican's issue, but they are representing the two diatribe, and they need to stop because they there is an
you mean
eruption.
two
There
gangs.
is an eruption. There is an eruption because people are getting more and more frustrated, and people are getting tired. And there's just one thing that comes after you hold the people for so long in chokehold that they're going to revolt.
I hear the current Minister Babsy Grange, but we have to ignite a nation. You know what I mean? Igniting mean? You know what I mean? Of igniting? You know what about igniting a nation? You know, putting the Jamaican people back against the wall for far too long. And Marcus Garvey said, you know,
Igniting.
Marcus Garvey said that somebody had no road along the street and not from no judge either. You all are putting the Jamaican people back against the wall for far too long. And the time has come where Jamaicans are gonna rebel. You see what is going on in Israel? Where Benjamin Netanyahu decide to have more power than the Supreme Court? And this what's going on? We don't continue to pray Jamaican people here.
So when she said ignite, the word ignite meaning catch fire or cause to catch the fire. So are we to be catching fire, Jeffrey? Are we to light the cane field? Are we to light?
Because there's something sometimes I want to have a damn sense, you know. It's like termite them all up in their brain. You're gonna ignite a nation. Continue to talk about igniting the nation. They shall ignite the nation. You remember the 1990s gas riot in this country?
Well,
you all remember the 1990s gas riot in this country?
Well, I tell you, Jeffrey.
Jamaican people against the wall. I am not telling you riot. I'm not telling anybody about their gun and causing a riot. But the time has come for you people to go sit down. We can't have the sense of people driving a constitution for this country. We cannot. And a government that decide that he is a dictator. Him and the Minister of Injustice, Delroy Truck, who can go on and amend constitution and laugh about it. Because what? The question must be asked, is the DPP, does the DPP have some closet, something in the closet for the PNP, for the JP? Does the DPP have some secret for members of the people of the Jamaica Labour Party? Madam DPP, what kind of secret have you Andrew? Madam DPP, what kind of secret you have for Delroy Truck? Huh? I can stop tonight here because as far as Luke, your closing remarks.
Look, the time for talk and the time for consultation is always a useful tool for us to arrive at a place where we can then implement and create the change that we want to see. I invite all well-thinking Jamaican, both home and abroad, to get together and start to write policies and to look at constitution reform and topical issues and make alternative recommendation to them, because it is going to fall to my generation, um, to and your generation, Jeffrey, to bring about the change that we need to see. And I'm delighted, Jeffrey, and I commend you on taking this position where you have these discussions that cause us to think and to expand our capacity to create and to develop ideas and programs that can benefit Jamaica. Jamaica needs Jamaicans home and abroad to continue to lead this charge because of the failing of our government. I did not want to see this administration go like this, but the level of arrogance, you're not walking in sync with the will of the people. You have demonstrated that you have created a wider gap between us and you in understanding what it is that we want to see, and to just igniting the idea, catching that fire of the possibilities that we have not thought about, and to move away from tribal politics, but to unite Jamaica once and for all around a vision that we all can live a better quality of life. These guys have failed us, but we don't have to fail. We have an opportunity because we are independent thinkers. We are people who love this country. We are not indebted to the big man and the powers that be. We just want the best for the country. And when we come on these programs, people must remember that I have no ulterior agenda. I want to see Jamaica survive because this country is the country of my birth. I can take citizen in any other country, and if they so desire to deport me at any point, that is their prerogative. But when I am home, this is home, and the Jamaica that I dream of is a place where we all can live, raise a family, and do business. Me now go talk about I want to see the good old days. I want to see the good new days, and it is possible. It is possible because we understand the science, the social science. So we must can put in the solution that is going to give us the Jamaica that we all dream of. One love, my Jamaican family. You're not just listeners, you're not just supporter of this movement, you're our extended family. And I love the fact that when we get together, sometimes we banter, sometimes we rub each other, but there is just this love and this unity that we all share as a common thread to see Jamaica better. And I encourage you to keep the fire burning for Jamaica and to pray for righteous direction, because I do believe, Jeffrey Tavares, there's a righteous wind blowing to our back.
Thank you very much, Luke George Cook, human rights activist. Let me make something clear tonight. To any member of my family who believe that I should not be doing this, don't call my phone and tell me not to do it. Do not call my phone and tell me that I must preserve the last thing that I may have. I will not stand by and see something wrong and don't speak about it. So if you all don't like what I do, then so be it. Love you all same way. But don't tell me not to do it.
Jeffrey, let me just respond to something quickly. Black Love, if you want to talk about some of these projects that we want to work on for communities, and you use the word vulnerable, but for communities, for us to ignite them to become more responsible for how they chart our course forward. I can be reached at 842-4725. The area code is 876-842-4725. I would love to have a discussion with you if you have those ideas or anybody else using this platform and to put a group of persons together to work on this. My email is very easy. It's lowercase l ggcooke@gmail.com. So if you're serious and you have those solutions, I can't. I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed to text in the comments section, but it's 1-876-842-4725 and lggcooke@gmail.com.
Thank you very much, Luke George Cook. Thank you to my viewers and my listeners. You all, as what Luke said, sometimes don't take tea with us. But to be honest, I love and respect you all for coming on time and time again. No matter what it is, you all come on and you share your opinions. And I appreciate every single one of you. I appreciate that you all are sharing this YouTube channel. You all are subscribing. You all are liking. I like what you're doing. And I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. To my good friend Yo-Yo, I haven't seen you tonight. But love and respect.
Jeffrey, you want to change my famous two last name to Kunta Kente? Because me have to tell some family member, them follow me alone, man. Me nah do not, them nah go come after owner. That's why I'm show my face so them know say I meet them for come look for. Me hate this coward approach that them are gonna kill you. You chat too much. Boy. I'm just tired of Jeffrey, I'm just tired of being afraid. I'm really just tired. It pains me to be afraid. It pains me that people talk about them soon kill you. And you must remember there's life and death in the power of the tongue. I have to be praying every day that, oh, Mary, but you can't go on. You think you're God, you take on Jamaica issue. Just try hold on your head and survive. You're a bright man, but you act foolish. Why are you coming on these programs and speaking the way you're speaking? Is it that the donkey has to speak because the Jamaican people have lost their history, their history of standing up for themselves? Is the story of Paul Bogle of Stony Gut and Sam Shaw of of Montego Bay, Lost and Us and Georgia and Nanny of the Maroon and Marcus Garvey, who gave the world civil rights leaders the likes of a Martin Luther King, Andrew Young,
Ambassador Andrew Young.
Ambassador Andrew Young, Mr. Harry Belafonte, Mr. Sidney Portier. My God, are we to die like dogs in the street without putting up a fight? Well, I say not I. I will not go quietly into this gentle night.
And you know something, Luke, as I sit here, I want to let everybody know I love my family dearly. I love them dearly. But they know the type of person they have as a nephew, as a son, as a cousin, as a brother. They know the type of person he is. I will not stand by and see somebody who I not even know is being treated unjustly. And I sit down and accept it. No. No, I will not. And this country, I may go on tomorrow morning, God forbid. But let it be said that a big mouth, Jeffrey Tavares, was doing something for this country. Let it be said that a big mouth, Jeffrey Tavares, stand up for what is right for this country. Let it be said that a big mouth, Jeffrey Tavares, don't believe in corruption, have never acted corruptly. Let it be said that I've always speak out for the fundamental rights of the Jamaican people.
Starkey, yeah, Jeffrey Starkey, me hear what you said that, but Jeffrey, I said, and me agree with you. People will not stand up because they're afraid for dead. But whether we stand up or we stay quiet, we are dead. That's just the sad part of it, Because Starkey, I could just be standing up at the grocery shop and them come grab it and them kill me. Because we talk about the government that is a malignant cancer on the society. We should talk about the so-called garrisons of men who have just ravaged and destroyed life and property and feel as if they are the untouchable because they are the gutties and the gangs of
And
the world.
we Jamaican, we the Jamaican people, worship these politicians too much. We the people in this country,
And
we
gunman
worship
to
them.
Jeffrey, and gunman to we worship gunman to in other country are too much. And then there are no Robin Hoods. None of them. There are no Robin Hood. Them give little bit, but you have to see what them have. Mama, I don't want to speak in tongues, yeah.
Go ahead, no man, go ahead.
The people them don't want me to call Jerusalem back way. But the time has come for real leadership, and it has come for us to put up a fight. How long shall we sit aside while they kill our prophet?
Look
Some
at this
say it's
too.
just a part of it. We have to fulfill the book. But
Yes.
look here, another man in America said, sometime we just have to go, they go give some and stand up and make good trouble. And I want to make
As a
some
matter
good
of fact,
trouble.
I was just gonna play this video. Listen to this.
I got arrested a few times. During the 60s, I went to jail 40 times. Since I've been in Congress, I've been arrested another 5 times. And I'm probably going to get arrested again for something. I'm not suggesting that any of you should go out and get arrested. But when you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, stand up and say something. Do something. I gave a little blood on that bridge in Selma 53 years ago. I almost died. Some of my friends and colleagues were murdered in Mississippi and other places. I'm not asking any of you to give any blood. I'm just asking you to go and vote like you never voted before. We have to vote. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent instrument or tool we have in a democratic society, and we must use it. Use it. Go out and vote. Let's go out and vote. Go and vote. Go and vote.
Well, Jeffrey, we only need to say the only thing necessary for us to trump evil is that good men and women must do something about it. I rather die on yonder gallows than remain a slave in this world to a handful of despots. Just imagine with me for a moment, audience and Jeffrey, what Jamaica would be like if we weren't having all of these problems. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I have to take my exit. Thank you for having me, Jeffrey. Thank you, audience, for this robust discussion. Black Love, again, it's 1-876-842-4725. Please don't just let us talk in the chat, but if you have some ideas for community mobilization and community empowerment, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to form a group for us to look at community empowerment advocacy, and empowerment and training in entrepreneur training and conflict mediation. The email is lggcooke@gmail.com. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I bid you a good night. Seem like we have lost Jeffrey, so let me say on behalf of the Jeffrey Tavares Make Me Talk show, we had a wonderful, vibrant, igniting conversation. Until next time, I look forward to share this microphone and this internet with you as we continue to look at possible solution for the problem facing our beloved country of Jamaica. One and all, good night. Let's pray for each other. Let's remember each other in our silent meditation. Walk good and make good spirit walk with you.
I don't know what happened. Thank you all. I know Luke has said good night to you all. Thank you all for coming on. This is where we say so long from here. I just got disconnected for what reason, I don't know. They maybe they don't want me to talk. You know? Thank you all for coming on. Thank you all. Thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Thank you all so much. And as what the late John Lewis said, go out there and make some good trouble. Go out there and make some good trouble. No matter what it is, you go out there and make some good trouble. For all those cares have been our concern. The work goes on, the cause endure, the hope still lives, and the dream for a better Jamaica shall never die. May God bless you all. May God bless Jamaica land we love. And may you continue to fight for this rock, because we came here by labor pain, not by aeroplane. Join me again for another exciting discussion with another wonderful guest to come on. Give me some subscribes. Let the subscription go up to about 6,000 for the weekend. No? Thank you all very much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Do you need graphic design services? Or maybe you need branding for your business? How about multimedia production services? Contact Browns Media and Graphics at 876-877-1870. Browns Media and Graphics, developing your ideas, creating your style.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.